pricing, particularly the EU emission trading scheme, the inclusion of waste incineration, and how can this tool reduce emissions in the waste sector without creating regressive cost impacts on citizens. This discussion aims to identify fair, practical and socially just policy options that align environmental goals with equity and waste prevention policies. As someone from the UK, I've been watching this debate evolve quite closely. You know, the UK will bring waste incineration into its emission trading scheme in 2028, after a 2-year voluntary monitoring and reporting period that starts just in 2026. So most of the energy from waste incineration facilities will be covered, except for the hazardous waste incinerators. And so we expect that from next year, 2026, plants will track and report their emissions, and they won't need still to surrender their allowances until 2028. And so we see precisely how the debate has unfolded. Including waste incineration in the UK ETS is intended to put a real carbon price on burning waste, pushing the system toward prevention, reuse and recycling, and helping the country move towards their net zero goals. But it also raises concerns about higher costs and the risk that waste could shift to landfills or be exported elsewhere. So today, I'm delighted to introduce an excellent panel to discuss this topic. We're joined today by 3 exceptional speakers. We have Janek, Zero Pollution and Policy Waste Manager at Zero Waste Europe. He brings a decade of EU environmental policy experience, leading work on waste to energy, mixed waste sorting, packaging, and the climate impacts of waste. We have Zainab B, a climate justice and public policy expert from India that has represented the Global South at major international forums from COP27, COP28 to the G20, and has worked with organizations such as UN Habitat, GIZ, Greenpeace, and USAID, championing youth leadership and social impact. And we have as well Andrea Salimbeni, an energy engineer with a PhD in thermochemical processes that heads the raw materials and carbon recycling unit at Record in Italy, with 15 years of experience in renewable energy and climate-focused innovation across Europe. Our first speaker is going to be Janek Bak from Zero Waste Europe, who will present the 2025 updated report, Waste Incineration under the EU ETS, an assessment on climate benefits. So, thank you, Janek, for being here with us, and the floor is yours.
Can you? Yeah. Okay. Excellent. There are always some technical issues to get started. I'm very used to it now that we have, we are working online most of the time. Give me just a second to show the presentation. Okay, so I was thinking maybe it's best if I stand up, but now maybe it doesn't make sense. Okay, I'll put it here. Okay, so this topic is very interesting because waste sector traditionally is not really seen as a sector to kind of suitable for the carbon market, particularly from the perspective of kind of penalizing the exact emissions from coming from the waste sector. So, but there's a lot happening in Europe, especially over the last few let's say last few maybe 10 years, and it would be also of course interesting to see like how much this is happening in globally, and I hope my colleague here will talk more about it. So yeah, I'll kickstart the discussion with a report we did. We did it. I think we did it first when there was a discussion in the parliament about it, to show that waste incineration should be, and potentially some other waste management activities should be included. And we updated it last year when the Commission started to work on its consultation about the potential inclusion, because the political decision was that the Commission needs to work on the inclusion of the waste incineration and potentially some other waste sector activities. So let's see if it works. No.
The other way, the other down. The down. No, the other button.
The down one, okay. Okay, good. Very good. So I still need to see it a little bit, so I know that I see the slide. Yeah. So as I said, like the waste sector activities right now are not in the scope of the European emission trading scheme. So for those who don't know what is the emission trading scheme, it's a kind of cap and trade system where you cap the total emissions, and then you divide it sort of like between the industries, and if they emit more than what they are given, they would have to pay a carbon price. And until now, it's been really mostly focused on the energy sector and some industries, such as, for example, cement. So all the energy-intensive industries are included, but the waste sector was excluded from the scope. And even historically, there have been many attempts to include it, but it's there's been always advocacy involved in that, and always some reasons, and there've been also some development in terms of like how you measure emissions actually from the waste sector. So which is actually a big part of it, because the emission trading scheme, in order to be able to tax the carbon emitted, you need to know exactly how much is emitted, which historically was a problem. So right now, as I said, like there was a political discussion between the European Parliament and the Council, so it's the member states representing the countries in Europe who are part of the European Union. They agreed that they should include the waste incineration and potentially also consider the inclusion of other sectors. And this is what I want to discuss here. Yeah. Okay. So why should we consider potentially including the waste sector, and specifically I would say waste incineration? So what is happening in Europe? So when you look at in terms of like the emissions, they have been kind of going down when it comes to the waste sector, but the emissions coming from incinerators, particularly with the energy recovery, actually they've been going up.